going to be exploring something that you might think would be a little more difficult to get to. How to experience your own soul, to experience it, well, in one of 3 sessions, and then go on to experience it anytime that you want to. Of course, there are going to be challenges to experiencing that. So let's talk about what the challenges are to experiencing your own soul. The challenge, the primary challenge, is your left brain. You usually use that aspect of your mind that likes to think, that likes to run around and experience lots and lots of different things, that gets bored easily, that will give you a symbolic expression of something that you want to define. It'll give you a stick figure, for instance, instead of a face. That's the aspect of ourselves that we want to shut down in order to turn on what we'd call the design mind, which is that aspect of ourselves that loves to take its time, that likes to see detail, that likes to see light and shadow, that takes a profound view and is that point of view of ours that we would call the artistic aspect of our minds. And the best way to access that is to learn to turn off the left brain so that the right brain can come on. And one of the best things that I know of to do to accomplish that is a book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain is an excellent tool for helping you to access the tool that you need to access your experience of soul. So as homework, I'd like you, each one of you, to take a look at the book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, and do the experiences, do the exercises that are in it until you can turn off the left brain and turn on the right brain at will. Once you've learned that one secret, turning off the left brain and turning on the right brain, everything else will fall immediately into place. So let's talk then about what the experience of experiencing into your own soul is about. The first time I had this experience, I was on a retreat with about 8 other people and the group leader. And we were away in a forested area, and we would walk through the forests, and we would go into what was called body sense. Body sense was the name that this particular teacher gave to what I later realized was the first level of experiencing one's own soul. So I would recommend, after you've begun to experience your own soul, that you do take the experience into nature, because nature and green in general, the green leafy vegetable kingdom, takes its life force directly from the sun. And as you eat green leafy vegetables, you take that kind of energy into your body. That's why vegetarianism is accented as being a very powerful choice that you can make in your spiritual choices. I'm not saying that that's necessary to make this particular voyage, but it helps to spend time in nature and to spend time with like-minded individuals experiencing the same kind of thing, because in a group situation, a group environment, even in a group of 2 or 3, you can enhance the experience of the individual. So my first experience was going into this activity and sitting down with the group after we've come out of our nature walk and going into what we would call body sets. And in the center of our group was placed a little Christmas cactus of all things, maybe 2 feet high, 2 inches tall, very unassuming, very unspecial, very unspectacular. But there it was for us to experience body sense with. So we sat down and went through the process of going into body sense and then bringing our attention to this little cactus in the middle of the room. And after a while, a relatively short while, I began to experience, for lack of a better expression, leafiness. As I focused on this little plant, a sense of leafiness, leaves, filled the room. It was huge relative to this little 2-inch cactus. And there was a sense of peace and voluptuousness and exquisiteness that was a part of experiencing the soul of this little plant through my soul. And then all of a sudden, I found myself in the middle of the room, in the place where this plant was. It wasn't my choice. Suddenly, we exchanged places, or so it seemed to me. And I was in the middle of the room, experiencing myself and the group from the perspective of this little cactus plant. And then after a minute or two, just as suddenly, I was back in my own place. Then the leader of the group, who was very sensitive to energies and experienced visually the kinds of interactions that happen on an energetic plane, that at the moment I began to experience this group from the perspective of the plant, everyone in the group began to experience or was connected by energy. A stream of energy began to flow to each member of the group as a healing, as an effort of healing. That was my first experience of the intelligence and the compassion of nature that we can gain access to through our experience of our own souls. Now, when I say soul, I'm referring to it from the perspective of what we might call Dobby the house elf. That aspect of ourselves that is running things as we, the Death Eaters, pounce around thinking that we're running things, when in fact, what is running things is different in kind from what we are and is responsible for our experience of everything that we do experience, in addition to running our bodies and creating for us the kinds of lives that are a function of what we expect to be experiencing. Dobby within us, as Dobby in the movie, tends to be ignored by us. We don't think of that as being important to us. We think the thoughts that are going on in our mind and that direct us in this way or that way are the real powers in our lives. But the reality is that nothing would be going on in our lives at all if this Dobie, the house elf, soul aspect were not there, nothing is going on where that soul presence is not. However, there's nowhere that soul presence is not. Everything that we do, think, say, and feel is a function of that soul consciousness, and that is what we are turning our attention towards, engaging and acknowledging and experiencing and investing our attention and eventually our love and compassion with, which will shift for us permanently the kinds of lives that we experience. So that, I think, will be enough for today to talk about, remembering that in our next appointment together, it would be very important, very, very important, before going on to video number 2, to experience turning off the left brain, turning on the right brain by doing the exercises that an artist would do. And in the interim, you might notice that you are, in fact, much more of an artist than you thought you were. But the capacity to shift from left brain to right brain is essential to learning how to experience your own soul momentum, and to participate in that permanently for the rest of your life.